Have you ever made a mistake so big that you thought there was no way back? Have you ever wrestled with guilt, fear, or your past, and wondered if God could still love you? Well, meet Jacob. His story begins with a lie and ends with a blessing. He was a twin who grabbed, tricked, ran, and wrestled, not just with people, but with God himself. And in the end, God didn't push him away. He gave him a new name. This is the story of Jacob, the man who fought with God and lived to tell the tale. Long ago, in the land of Canaan, there lived a couple named Isaac and Rebekah. They were good people, chosen by God. But like many people in the Bible, they had their struggles too. One day, after many years of marriage, Rebekah finally became pregnant. But something unusual was happening in her womb. It felt like a battle was going on in her belly. Worried, she asked God what was happening. And God answered her, "Two nations are in your womb. Two peoples will come from within you and be separated. One will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." Strange words, right? Soon, Rebekah gave birth to twin boys. The first came out red and hairy, and they named him Esau. The second came out right after, so quickly that he was grabbing Esau's heel as if trying to pull him back. That's why they named him Jacob, which means heel grabber or deceiver. From the very beginning, Jacob was reaching, striving, trying to take what wasn't yet his. As the boys grew up, they couldn't have been more different. Esau was wild and rugged, a hunter, a man of the outdoors. Jacob was quiet, thoughtful, and preferred staying home in the tents. And here's where things got messy. Isaac, their father, loved Esau more because he liked the wild game Esau hunted. Rebekah, on the other hand, favored Jacob. The home was divided. Love was uneven. And Jacob grew up knowing that he was second in line for his father's blessing, for the inheritance, for the future. But Jacob didn't want to be second. He wanted the blessing. He wanted it all. One day, Esau came home from the field exhausted and starving. His stomach growled, and the smell of stew cooking in the tent was too much to resist. Jacob was stirring a pot of red lentil stew. "Give me some of that stew," Esau demanded. "I'm starving." Jacob saw his chance. "Sell me your birthright first," he said. The birthright was a big deal. It meant leadership of the family, a double portion of inheritance, and the spiritual legacy passed down from Abraham to Isaac, and now to the next in line. Esau shrugged. "What good is a birthright if I die of hunger? Fine, you can have it." And just like that, over a bowl of stew, Esau gave away something priceless. Jacob got what he wanted, but not by earning it, by taking advantage. Years passed, and Isaac grew old and nearly blind. He called Esau and said, "Go hunt for me." But Rebekah overheard this. She rushed to Jacob. "Quick, your father is about to bless Esau, that we must act now. You will go in pretending to be Esau and receive the blessing instead." Jacob was nervous. "But Esau is hairy, and I'm smooth. What if Dad touches me and realizes I'm lying?" Rebekah insisted. "Let the curse fall on me. Just do as I say." Rebekah covered his hands and neck with goatskins. He took the food to Isaac and pretended to be his brother. Isaac was confused. "You sound like Jacob, but you feel like Esau." But in the end, Isaac was convinced. He laid his hands on Jacob and gave him the powerful blessing meant for the firstborn. Moments after Jacob left, Esau walked in. He had the meal ready, but it was too late. Isaac trembled. "Your brother has come and taken your blessing." Esau wept. "Father, bless me too." But Isaac said, "I've already given it, and it will stand." Esau's heart filled with rage. He vowed to kill Jacob. Fearing for Jacob's life, Rebekah urged him to flee. "Go to my brother Laban's house, far away. Stay there until Esau calms down." And so, Jacob became a fugitive. He had the blessing, but not the peace. He had the inheritance, but not the joy. He left home with fear in his heart, alone on the road, not knowing what the future would bring. But God hadn't forgotten Jacob. That night, as he slept in the wilderness with a stone for a pillow, Jacob had a dream. He saw a ladder stretching from earth to heaven, with angels going up and down. And above the ladder stood the Lord. "I am the God of Abraham and Isaac," God said. "I will give you this land. I will be with you. I will not leave you until I fulfill my promise." Surely God is in this place, and I didn't even know it. He said that he named the place Bethel, which means house of God. For the first time in his life, Jacob realized that God wasn't just his father's God. He could be his God too. Jacob continued his journey and eventually reached the land of the east, where his uncle Laban lived. There, by a well, he met a beautiful young woman named Rachel, Laban's daughter. Jacob was smitten. He helped water her sheep, and when she told her father about the visitor, Laban welcomed Jacob warmly. Jacob stayed and worked, and soon he asked for Rachel's hand in marriage. "I'll work 7 years for her," Jacob offered. 7 years passed, but for Jacob, they felt like just a few days because he was so in love. Finally, the wedding day came. But when morning came after the ceremony, Jacob was in for the shock of his life. It wasn't Rachel beside him. It was Leah, Rachel's older sister. Jacob had been tricked. Furious, he confronted Laban. Laban explained, "In our culture, the older daughter must marry first. But if you work another 7 years, you can have Rachel too." So Jacob agreed. He worked 7 more years and finally married Rachel. Now he had 2 wives, 2 sisters, with very different personalities. Leah felt unloved, Rachel was barren, and Jacob was caught in a storm of competition, heartache, and family tension. Over the years, God blessed Jacob with many children, through Leah, Rachel, and their maidservants. He eventually had 12 sons, who would become the 12 tribes of Israel. But even in success, life with Laban wasn't easy. Jacob worked hard for Laban for 20 years, often being cheated. Laban changed his wages 10 times and tried to take advantage of him at every turn. Eventually, God spoke to Jacob again. "Go back to your homeland. I will be with you." Jacob gathered his wives, children, servants, and all his flocks and quietly left Laban's land. He caught up with Jacob in the mountains. But that night, God warned Laban in a dream. "Do not say anything good or bad to Jacob." Laban confronted Jacob, and after a tense conversation, they made a peace treaty. They set up a pile of stones as a witness, and Laban returned home. Jacob was finally free from his uncle, but he wasn't in the clear yet. There was one more thing ahead, something he had been dreading for 20 years. His brother Esau. As Jacob got closer to home, he heard news that Esau was coming, with 400 men. Jacob was terrified. Was Esau coming for revenge? Would he attack? Jacob panicked. He split his family and possessions into groups, hoping at least some would survive if Esau struck. Then he prayed, "O God of my father Abraham, I am not worthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you've shown me. Please deliver me from my brother Esau. I fear he may come and strike me and my family." It was one of the most honest prayers Jacob had ever prayed. No tricks, no games, just fear and faith. Then Jacob sent gifts ahead, herds of animals, as a peace offering for Esau. He instructed his servants to say, "These are a gift for my master Esau, from your servant Jacob." He hoped to soften his brother's heart. That night, Jacob sent his family across the stream at a place called Jabbok. He was finally alone, alone with his thoughts, alone with his past, alone with his guilt. This wasn't just a fear of Esau. This was a moment of truth for Jacob, a night of reckoning. Would his old ways define him forever? Could he really change? Then, in the stillness of the night, something mysterious happened. A man appeared and wrestled with Jacob. They struggled all night long. This wasn't an ordinary fight. Jacob realized this was something divine, someone divine. When the man saw he could not overpower Jacob, he touched his hip, and instantly, Jacob's hip was wrenched out of joint. But Jacob refused to let go. The man said, "Let me go, for the day is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." "What's your name?" the man asked. "Jacob," he replied. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed." Jacob had spent his whole life grabbing, deceiving, and running. Now, broken and limping, he finally held on for the right reason, not to steal, but to be blessed by God. Jacob asked, "What is your name?" But the man did not answer. Instead, he blessed Jacob there. Jacob named the place Peniel, which means face of God, because he said, "I have seen God face to face, and my life was spared." As the sun rose, Jacob limped away from that place, forever changed. As the sun rose over the hills of Canaan, Jacob limped forward, each step a reminder of the night he wrestled with God. Ahead of him was the moment he had feared for 20 years, meeting Esau. He looked up and saw Esau approaching, with 400 men. Jacob bowed low to the ground 7 times. as he moved closer, showing humility and submission. Behind him, his wives and children followed, nervous and uncertain. And then, something incredible happened. Esau ran to meet Jacob. He didn't raise a sword. He didn't shout in anger. He ran and hugged his brother. He threw his arms around Jacob, and the two brothers wept. It was the moment Jacob never expected, but the one God had prepared. Esau looked at Jacob's family and said, "Who are all these with you?" "These are the children God has graciously given your servant," Jacob replied. Esau then asked about the animals Jacob had sent. "They're gifts for you," Jacob said, "to find favor in your eyes." But Esau answered, "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have." Still, Jacob insisted, "Please accept this gift." The two brothers talked. Then Esau returned to his land, and Jacob continued his journey. Jacob eventually made it to Shechem and then to Bethel, the place where he had first seen the ladder reaching to heaven. This time, Jacob didn't just set up a stone and make a promise. He built an altar to the Lord. He called it El Bethel, which means God of the house of God. Jacob wasn't just seeking blessings anymore. He was building a relationship. He now knew God not just as the God of Abraham or Isaac, but as his own God. As time went on, life brought both joy and sorrow. Jacob's beloved wife Rachel gave birth to another son, Benjamin, but tragically died during childbirth. It broke Jacob's heart. She was buried near Bethlehem, and Jacob set up a pillar on her grave. He never forgot her. Still, his family continued to grow. He now had 12 sons and many grandchildren. God reminded him again, "Your name is no longer Jacob, but Israel." And with that, God reaffirmed his covenant, that a great nation would come from Jacob, kings would arise from his descendants, and the land promised to Abraham would be theirs. Jacob had gone from heel-grabber to God-wrestler, from deceiver to patriarch, from running to resting in God. Jacob's sons were far from perfect. Each had their own flaws and failures, but together, they formed the beginning of something much bigger than themselves. The 12 sons became the 12 tribes of Israel. Among them was Judah, through whom would come kings like David and eventually Jesus. Another was Joseph, Jacob's favorite son, whose story would soon unfold with dreams, betrayal, and redemption. But that is another tale. Jacob's life teaches us some powerful lessons. God uses imperfect people. Jacob was flawed. He lied, deceived, and ran. But God didn't give up on him. He used him, shaped him, and renamed him. If God can transform Jacob, he can transform you. You can't outrun your past, but you can be redeemed. Jacob ran from Esau, from truth, from accountability. But eventually, he had to face it. God doesn't remove the past, he redeems it. Wrestling with God can lead to blessing. When Jacob wrestled with God, he came out wounded, but also blessed. Sometimes, our deepest struggles bring our greatest growth. Real change comes when we let go of control. Jacob spent his whole life trying to take what he wanted, but he finally found peace when he surrendered and clung to God. God stays faithful, even when we don't. God made promises to Jacob, and he kept them. Even when Jacob made mistakes, God's mercy never left him. So what about you? Are you running from something? Trying to fix things your own way? Carrying guilt or regret? You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You don't have to get everything right to be called by God. Sometimes, it's in the wrestling, the tears, the limping away from brokenness, that we find who we truly are. Jacob became Israel, a man transformed by grace. And that same grace is available to all of us. Heavenly Father, thank you for the story of Jacob, a story of mercy, change, and hope. Help us to stop running and start holding on to you. Teach us that even when we feel unworthy, you call us by name. In our struggles, may we find strength. In our weakness, may we find your grace. And like Jacob, may we walk away changed, even if we limp. Jacob's journey wasn't perfect, but it was real. And through it, we're reminded, God sees us, God wrestles with us, and God never lets go. This is the story of Jacob, the man who fought with God and lived. Thank you for watching Vibrant Grace Tales. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to stay connected. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What stood out to you or inspired you today? Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new Bible story. Together, Let's keep sharing the light of God's Word, one story at a time. God bless you, and see you in the next video.